The Helix Nebula was a place of ghosts and glowing gas, but for the last few decades, it had become a forbidden zone. It was ruled by the Aethelgard, a species that didn't build ships out of metal. They grew them. Their vessels were living, breathing creatures made of a strange, shimmering crystal. These ships had a terrifying secret: they loved to be shot. To the Aethelgard, a laser beam wasn't a weapon, it was a meal. Their crystal skin was designed to soak up heat and light instantly. When a human ship fired a massive red laser at an Aethelgard cruiser, the crystal didn't melt or burn. It simply glowed brighter. It drank the energy, using it to grow thicker, harder, and more powerful. The more the humans fought back, the stronger the enemy became. The human fleet was trapped. High above the swirling gases of the nebula, the battle was going poorly. The human destroyers were pouring every ounce of power they had into their cannons, only to watch the alien ships grow to twice their original size, their glowing armor becoming so thick that nothing could scratch it. High Consumer Xyler, the alien leader, sat in his command center, a room made of pulsing, warm light. He felt the human lasers hitting his ship like a warm, pleasant rain. "The small ones are so generous," Xyler whispered, his voice echoing through the minds of his crew. "They bring us their fires. They bring us their heat. Let them keep firing. Soon, we will be so strong that we can crush their entire system with a single blow. Their light is our life." On the bridge of the human industrial ship Hephaestus, Admiral Maria Sledgehammer Rostova watched the screen with a grim expression. She wasn't a fancy naval officer with medals and white gloves. She was a former asteroid miner who had spent 20 years in the belt before the war started. She knew how to break things. And she knew that her fleet was making a massive mistake. "Stop the firing," Rostova shouted into her headset, her voice gravelly and firm. "All ships, cut your power. Cease fire immediately. You're just feeding the damn things." One by one, the human lasers flickered and died. The nebula went dark, save for the bright, arrogant glow of the Aethelgard ships. "Admiral, we can't just sit here," a captain from another ship radioed in, his voice shaking. "They're coming for us. If we don't shoot, we're sitting ducks." Rostova didn't look at him. She was looking at the sensor map, specifically at a giant, dark shape drifting a few miles away from her ship. It was an asteroid 15 miles across, made of solid iron and nickel. It was a planet killer that the Hephaestus had been preparing to mine for metal. "They think they're invincible because they can eat light," Rostova muttered, a cold smile crossing her face. "They think they've beaten us because they can handle heat. But they've spent so much time being elegant that they've forgotten what it feels like to be hit by something heavy." She turned to her crew. "Connect the industrial tugs to that rock. All of them. Use the magnetic tethers. I want every engine we have pointed at the rear of that asteroid." Out in the dark, dozens of small, powerful human tug ships latched onto the back of the massive iron mountain. Their engines roared to life, spitting blue flame into the void. At first, the asteroid didn't move. It was too heavy, too stubborn. But slowly, inch by inch, the 15 billion tons of iron began to drift toward the alien fleet. High Consumer Xyler saw the movement on his display. He wasn't worried. His ship had just eaten enough energy to power a sun. He was invincible. "They are moving a rock?" Xyler laughed. "They have run out of fire, so they try to use the debris of the nebula? It has no energy. It has no heat. It will simply bounce off our perfected armor. Continue the advance. We shall eat the humans next." The Aethelgard flagship, the Eternal Gorge, moved forward to meet the challenge. It was a beautiful sight, a shimmering, crystalline manta ray that blotted out the stars. It was a masterpiece of biological engineering. The asteroid, meanwhile, was an ugly, jagged lump of coal-colored metal. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't smart, but it was fast, and it was heavy. Rostova watched the distance close. 10 miles. 5 miles. 1 mile. "Brace for impact," she roared. The collision was the loudest thing anyone had ever heard in the silence of space. It wasn't a flash of light or a burst of plasma. It was the sound of a universe breaking. The iron asteroid slammed into the side of the crystalline dreadnought. The alien armor, which had soaked up millions of degrees of heat without a scratch, had no answer for the sheer, brutal weight of the mountain. The crystal didn't absorb the impact. It couldn't. The asteroid hit with the force of a falling moon. The beautiful manta ray ship buckled. Its glowing skin cracked into a trillion pieces. The asteroid plowed straight through the center of the ship, crushing the command center, the engine rooms, and the crew habitats like they were made of eggshells. There was no explosion, just the horrific, grinding sound of metal destroying crystal. Xyler didn't even have time to scream. His invincible world was turned into a cloud of glittering dust and molten iron in a heartbeat. The rest of the Aethelgard fleet stopped. Their collective mind was filled with a sudden, freezing terror. They had been built to fight high-tech lasers. They had been built to survive the fires of the future. They had no idea how to fight a species that simply threw mountains at them. Rostova watched from her bridge as the giant asteroid continued on its path, tumbling away into the nebula, leaving only wreckage behind. She took a sip of her cold coffee and leaned back in her chair. "You see that, boys?" she said to her crew. "That's the density decree. You can be as bright and as fancy as you want. You can eat all the lasers in the galaxy. But when a billion tons of iron decides it wants to be where you're standing, you move. Or you die." The humans didn't fire another laser that day. They didn't need to. The remaining Aethelgard ships turned and fled, disappearing into the deep reaches of space, terrified of the barbarians, who used the very bones of the universe as weapons. Humanity had proven the ultimate truth of warfare. Intelligence and technology are great, but sometimes the biggest hammer wins the fight. We are the ones who understand the weight of things. We are the ones who know that in a galaxy of light, it's the heavy, dark objects you have to worry about. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. Always bring a bigger hammer. If you enjoyed this massive heavy metal victory, hit that like button. Comment below. What's the most satisfying brute force moment you've seen in a story? Subscribe for the final story of Saga X, The Last Testament. The Rock has spoken. The battle is over.